All right, folks, welcome back to the Crisis Report. It is August 6th, 2025. And this, of course, is the anniversary of Hiroshima. And we're going to talk about that amongst other things. We also are going to talk about the tariffs and all of the stuff that is coming from all of that. And we are going to talk about some potential breakthroughs with Mr. Putin. There's a shooting active problem on a Georgia base and other things. So we're going to just go through it. We're going to do it like we usually do. This is only what I'm doing today because today was a family day. So we had dinner and enjoyed each other and pictures and blah, blah, blah. So we are going to be doing all of the intel for the day. So this will be a little bit longer than usual. I do like to break it up now. It is easier. I just didn't have time today. So this is brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals. If you are in the mood for a little IRA action in the precious, the shiny, the silver, the gold, we highly recommend that you check out Augusta Precious Metals. They are the new sponsor of the channel, and they're highly rated for a reason. So, as they said, we like your channel because we think your content is smart, and you think your people are smart. I said, well, thank you. I agree. All right, friends, let's get started. And we are going to be talking about all of this. Apologies for not getting a brief out earlier, but it was a big family day. So we are going to get going. All right. This is your crisis report for August 6th, 2025. This can be found on Substack, PrepperNow.substack.com. There is a link in the description if you would like to join us. We're growing a lot. I've actually had more growth in the last couple months than I have in the last couple years. So I appreciate you. Let's go. Ghislaine Maxwell reportedly told Justice Department officials during her recent interviews that she never witnessed President Trump engage in any troubling behavior. Border Patrol agents have apprehended illegal immigrants at Home Depot in Los Angeles, California. Sounds like a Wednesday. Democratic Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is providing $30,000 cash to each illegal migrant family to assist them in relocating to permanent housing. That's nice. Trump threatens the federal takeover of D.C. if the Capitol doesn't get its act together after a Doge staffer named Big Balls was left bloodied after a savage D.C. carjacking attempt by 10 juveniles. He tried to help the situation and got busted up pretty good. Trump says Japan will import beautiful Ford trucks, baby, found on roadside driving. That's right. That's a Ford, F-O-R-D. 3.5 magnitude earthquake has hit California. Tremors were felt in Los Angeles as the shaking and bacon is going on with the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff at Kremlin on Wednesday, just ahead of the U.S. deadline for ending the Ukraine conflict. State media has reported it supposedly went really well. So, yeah, supposedly went really well. So let's hope that gets going and keeps going, and we can get in the good graces of everybody. We do have some interesting news on our friends in the Middle East, the country that begins with an I, which I don't care. I'm not going to code them. They're called Israel. We'll get there. Natural disasters caused $135 billion in economic losses in the first half of 2025. Leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the United States will meet for a peace summit in Washington on August 7th and 8th. Armenian government's press office has said on Wednesday. Chikungunya in China. What you need to know. Well, the link is in the Substack. So go into the Substack, find it. Thank you, some random dude, for posting that. And join us. It's free if you like, or if you think what you're getting is worth something, you can give me a little something for the effort. We offer all kinds of options, as we say here. I am the product. You don't have to pay unless you want to. We hope you would join us here and other places. Apple to announce 100 billion commitment to America, boosting tech giants. U.S. investments to 600 billion over 4 years. India now faces a 50% tariff. Those are going all over the place. Ghana defense environment ministers were killed in a helicopter crash. India says it will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests after Trump imposed the 50% tariff. Trump says he has donated his salary to the White House Historical Association. Southern France, wildfire catastrophe on unprecedented scale. Reports of an active shooter incident, multiple casualties, Fort Stewart, Georgia. We'll have more on that. 5 soldiers shot, suspect in custody. Brazil seeks the World Trade Organization relief against Trump's tariffs and the government. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Well, there he is, old Giorgio Schwartz and our good friends Beto O'Rourke behind funding for the Dems fleeing Texas over the GOP congressional map. Fox News. Who could have saw that coming? Trump says Wyckoff had a highly productive meeting with Putin. Zelensky says he spoke with Trump after the U.S. envoy's visit to Moscow. Apple is going to invest $100 billion in the U.S., according to the White House. Lindsey Graham, quote, to my European friends who have been helping Ukraine, it is much appreciated. However, it is not lost upon me or others that you are buying oil from India, that India originally purchased from Russia. We are watching. This needs to stop now. Army says the suspected shooter is named Cornelius Radford, and he used his personal handgun, not a military-issued firearm. U.S. soldiers tackled the Fort Stewart shooter and subdued him, allowing law enforcement to take the shooter into custody. This is in a base where people do military type stuff. You'd think in 2025 or any time that if someone were to go on to a military base and start doing things, he gets shot by about 147 people from various angles because they're all carrying, and everybody that would ever try to attempt something like that would know that they would be turned into Swiss cheese should they do so. But of course, no, they're not allowed to have anything like that. It's just a big open, well, you get the point. UK's intelligence services reopened summer internship where no Caucasians, English, can apply. Be openly, exclusively to Black, Asian, mixed heritage, and ethnic minorities, and white other only, whatever that means. Trump labels Russia an extraordinary threat, U.S., after announcing new sanctions, including increasing India's tariff to 50% for purchasing Russian oil. EU Digital Services Act pressures United States tech companies, including X, to enforce global censorship, including on American political speech, U.S. House Judiciary Report. That is the link right there. It is to the judiciary.house.gov site. So, I mean, I've seen more like censorship stuff in the last couple months than I have in the last couple years, and it's kind of aggravating because it's unnecessary. To our friends in political office, if you're doing a good job, then you don't have to worry what people say. And if you're not doing a good job, well, you're supposedly going to get voted out. So by going in and making it that people can't go out and just speak freely about stuff like the crappy job you're doing, it's going to get worse, and people are going to take it. So you'll see. You always do. Trump plans to meet Putin next week, followed by a tripartite meeting with Putin and Zelensky to negotiate a ceasefire. Rubio, for the first time since this admin began, said we have concrete examples of the kinds of things Russia would ask for in order to end the war. Now we need to bring the two sides close enough so the ultimate closer, President Trump, can get involved and make it happen. Trump says he may very quietly or very quickly deploy the National Guard to D.C. Question to him, are you considering taking over the D.C. police? Answer, we're considering it, yes. because the crime is ridiculous, and it is. Trump's top intel official, Tulsi Gabbard, tells podcaster aliens may be real. We're continuing to look for the truth, according to Fox News. A U.S. Army soldier was arrested on Wednesday for attempting to provide classified information about the main American battle tank to Russia, according to the Justice Department. So, yeah. Checking in on the chat. Good to see you. Looks like everybody. We have had a sighting of Mamacita, by the way. We have actively engaged and tried to welcome her back and hone her in. So send out good vibes. We miss our people. And thank you to all of you for being a part of the PrepperNow and Crisis Report community. Thank you. God bless you. And may you have a wonderful day. Former special counsel Robert Mueller, who was subpoenaed just yesterday, has reportedly been located in a memory care facility. Now, I hope to God he was like, holy crap, they're coming for me, and he checked himself in. I really do. So, yeah, I don't know. Ukraine's deputy foreign minister says Vladimir Putin might be using a body double. Yeah, we've heard that before. United Airlines is facing a system-wide outage across the U.S. and has requested ground stops at major airports nationwide. New campaign in London called Mind the Grab sees anti-theft signage, purple stickers placed on the pavement to warn pedestrians of phone-snatching theft. Campaign is backed by Westminster Council, UK Police, and sponsored by retailer Currys, partnered with ICPR. I personally don't mind these kind of things. I think they're actually good to remind people not to be stupid. But fact is that London and most of England and the urban centers have become big cesspools of crime. So, Edward Korestein, employee of Doge, known as Big Balls, stepped in to protect a young woman from an assault by a bunch of teens in Washington, D.C. I would tell them what they look like, but that's now considered to be right. He was beaten and suffered a concussion in the process. Elon Musk backs Trump over federalization of Washington, D.C. after the Doge staff were brutally beaten. Elon threw his support behind the president after Trump threatened to federalize D.C. Threat came from a Department of Government Efficiency Doge employee was reportedly assaulted while trying to save a woman from several attackers. The man who was attacked has been identified as Doge employee Edward Korestein, also known as the nickname Big Balls. A few days ago, best name ever, by the way. A few days ago, Musk said on X, in response to Trump's post on Truth Social, a gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in the car at night. Doge team members saw what was happening, ran to defend her, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. It's time to federalize D.C. Trump said on Truth Social that crime in D.C. is totally out of control. Local youth and gang members, some only 14, 15, and 16, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens. Same time, knowing that they will be almost immediately released, they are not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. If this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize the city. A few years ago, some economists and investors laughed at us when we said the U.S. economy was heading toward Argentina with U.S. characteristics, but that's exactly what's going on. Registered voters, how they plan to vote for Congress in 2026. I know this doesn't mean anything. It's an Iowa polls thing. Democrats 44, Republican 38, not sure, 13. D+2 in June, D+6 now. GOP pollsters are seeing blue shifts in the generic congressional ballot this month. President Trump threatened to impose 250% tariffs on India if they keep buying Russian oil. India is a major supplier of generic drugs to the U.S. About 40% of generic prescription drugs are manufactured by Indian companies. This would throw the pharmaceutical market in the U.S. into complete chaos, and the vast majority of Americans will not afford their drugs anymore. Swiss President Karen Keller-Sutter leaves the U.S. without a trade deal and stuck with the 39% tariffs. Swiss tried to appease Trump by buying F-35 fighter jets the Swiss don't need, and Trump didn't think it was enough. Elon Musk's X has sued India's government, challenging the country's sweeping social media crackdown. Case targets the entire basis for tightened internet censorship in one of the platform's biggest user bases. So, more censorship. Times of Israel blogger strongly suggests and then threatens the leaks about Trump's involvement with Epstein are Israel's punishment for Trump refusing to bomb Iran more. He warns, quote, "It really doesn't pay to start up with Israel," end quote. Interesting. Moving on. Trump imposed sanctions on India and threatened it daily. Indian Prime Minister Modi is now leaving for a visit for China after 6 years. Reporters say that BRICS countries are preparing for a joint response against the tariffs. India and China have officially rejected Trump's ultimatum to stop buying oil from Russia. Trump is considering getting involved in the New York City mayoral race to stop Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani. Indian rupee hit a record low against the U.S. dollar due to escalating trade tensions with the U.S. Big Suwaida officially severs ties with Damascus. Israel-backed Suwaida's Supreme Legal Committee declared self-rule, naming a new internal security chief and forming an interim executive council to manage all local affairs. Reporter, why are you singling out India for the sanctions regarding Russian oil? Trump, you're going to see a lot more secondary sanctions. Trump on secondary sanctions regarding the Russian oil. We did it with India. We're probably doing it with a couple of others, and one of them could be China. Russians have begun scattering leaflets in Pokrovsk, calling for the surrender of the positions of the AFU. Government of the Russian Federation continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States, according to the White House. Honestly, I do not. All right, this is Aquila about how to really deter Putin. Okay. He says, honestly, I do not think tariffs and sanctions are going to deter Putin. There should be a more robust approach by Trump that he is committed to the cause. Frankly speaking, a joint spearheaded approach from NATO is the only approach from here on forward. I'm not talking military action, but Putin has to be shown that NATO will act if things continue like this. Has to be pressure created, and it has to be militarily. So whatever that looks like, that's what he thinks. Sadiq Khan says he wants to show Donald Trump the benefits of multiculturalism by giving him a guided tour of London. Oh man, I'd love to have a video walk with that. Over here, you've got the knife boxes where they have them tending their katanas and machetes. These are the anti-barriers for people that want to drive other people with a car. And of course, more things over here. Here's the new purple lining saying, mind the grab, for the numerous people that are taking cell phones and just making a quick buck, if you will. Know what I mean? Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to present a phased plan for the full occupation of Gaza, starting with Gaza City. Phase 1, Israel will issue evacuation notices to roughly 1 million residents, build civilian infrastructure, including hospitals and camps, and coordinate expanded aid distribution with the U.S. from 4 to 16 sites, funded by $1 billion in international donations. Phase 2, Israel would launch a military offensive, whilst President Trump is expected to announce accelerated humanitarian aid efforts aims to pressure Hamas back into hostage talks. Operation is expected to last weeks to months, with the military pushing residents south and focusing on areas where hostages are held. And these are your normie news, your leading headlines as per the normal people that put the news out. First things, markets rally on rate cut optimism, tech earnings drag, U.S. futures and major indexes rose as investors bet on a September Fed rate cut, despite disappointing earnings from AMD and Supermicro, Apple, McDonald's, and Arista buoyed sentiment. Markets weigh tariff risks amid earnings. Bullish investor sentiment persists, but recession fears rise as weak services data and tariffs press on. Firms like Caterpillar and Yum, OpenAI reportedly nearing $500 billion valuation as markets are looking ahead. Trump envoy reports progress with Russia. Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Putin. Trump said progress is made, but warned of impending secondary sanctions if Ukraine ceasefire is missed. Gold retreats after recent gains, eyeing the Fed picks. Profit taking pushed gold slightly lower after hitting a 2-week high, while investors focus on Fed appointment decisions. United States imposes an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods. New duties over Russian oil imports could push some tariffs to as high as 50%, escalating U.S.-India trade tensions. China export growth slows ahead of tariff deadline. Exports likely slowed to 5.4% year over year in July, with imports contracting by 1%. U.S. tariff uncertainty weighs heavily. Fed nomination uncertainty weighs on the dollar. U.S. dollar steadied for now, while markets await Trump's new nominee for the Fed amid weak U.S. data and political upheaval. Oil prices slid to 8-week lows amid Russia's sanctions uncertainty. Brent and WTI fell over 1%, driven by unclear U.S. policy and OPEC supply increases after earlier tariff-linked gains. Global markets were mixed. Stocks rose in the U.S., while European equities were flat. Asia Pacific and European futures showed divergence in tariff and inflation risk. Key dates for Trump's escalating trade war loom. Upcoming deadlines include August 7th for reciprocal tariffs, August 12th for China truce extension decision, and September 29th for drug companies to commit to price cuts. And that, my friends, bada boom, bada bang, is your crisis friggin' report. Please hit that like button. Please do the, subscribe thing. It helps. I know we're just moving forward. I was fully expecting this thing to get messed with by our friends. I guess I'll just kind of let it be. So, all right, friends. We thank you. Thanks for being here. Check out the Crisis Report on Substack. Check out Gab, Minds, Twitter, X, True Social. Other places you can become a member, like Water Tiger, or like Gene, or Bad Bobber, or John Evans. Thanks, friends. Great way to help the channel. It's a couple bucks, and it means that, it just means that we're able to keep going, and that's what we're doing. That's what we do here. We tell you what's going on in a nice and informative way with a couple of voices sometimes and a little bit of humor from time to time. But basically going forward, we're going to keep it pretty straightforward. We'll keep doing the briefs and stuff. Some days like today, I just won't be able to do it. But most days I should be able to. All right, we're going to take it on over to PrepperNow, and we'll see it. Yep, Porker Now says hello. He is living his best life in our backyard. And we will see you on the next one. God bless, friends. Have a great night. Like this sucker. Like it now.